Hi and welcome to Linus Napoleonic Shipyard. Today we're just going to take a quick look at our Black Seas Mediterranean campaign 1803 to 1805. This is a campaign we've been playing for quite a while now, and we haven't been able to finish it. We've basically been playtesting it, and I haven't wanted to release it until we tested all the parts. The problem is time, and we're actually 4 people playing it together, so it's been really hard lately, especially to get together and play it. And then as I had my live stream, I promised the people there that I was going to finish it and release it. So I'm releasing it as is, bearing in mind of that the last missions, actually last 2-3 missions or scenarios, hasn't been tested. It's nothing really special. It is a combination of some campaign rules of our own mixed with the campaign rules from Warlord games, the original books, both the original book and the Holdfast edition, and then also like adding on some of our own rules on top of that. Then scenarios are some of our own, but also some of them are from the rulebook, some of them as is, and some with some changes as they fitted into the campaign. The whole idea with the campaign for us was to make the actions come together. So what you do in one scenario will affect the next scenario. Ships would carry over, experience would carry over, and so on. So I'm going to explain more of that to you as I go through here. Why we chose the Mediterranean is because my brother Hannes, he has a French fleet, and my other friend Marcus has a Spanish fleet, and then I had a British fleet, and I was going to share that with Björn, so we'd play an era where we'd be able to fight Franco-Spanish versus British, also because I had more ships, basically. So we set this up, and it's based on locations, historical locations. None of the scenarios are actually historical, it's all fictional. But the locations are real, and you'll have a couple of different ways to play it. We haven't used in any of the scenarios any land fortifications and so on. You might want to add that yourself. We just wanted this campaign to focus purely on battle at sea without involving too much land action. There is some landings and some rescue missions, rescue operations and so on, but there is no land batteries in those. Just keep that in mind. We kept it pretty simple. So let's go into this. First of all, as you start the campaign, you start it with 250 points, and that's worth of ships, and they can be no larger than unrated. So the campaign starts you off, and it's kind of expands, so you get as you move further into the campaign, more ship types. You get access to more ship types. At some points in the campaign, there will be additional points given, and this is given quite often. So even if a side will lose a scenario completely, it can lose every ship it had for that scenario, then the point values would most of the time mean that you can replace the fleet. Of course, you would have lost the experience, so you couldn't draw from a pool of more experienced ship, veteran ships. You'd have to have a fresh pool, but at least the way the campaign works, and this is actually the third version of this campaign, I think, and we've had it set up different ways earlier where it would end before the final battle, where one side would be just simply depleted. And this hasn't happened as we have play tested this, so I think it's a system that kind of works. So new ships can be inexperienced or regular. Exception would be ships of renown if you choose to use them. We've been like twisting back and forth if we're going to use the famous ships or not. I mean, they're in the rules, but you can decide for yourself. The war chest, and that's where you keep your campaign money, can contain, so you could just save between battles a maximum of 300 points. After stage 4, as scenario 4 or stage 4, this is raised to 700 points, and then at stage 7, 1500 points. The rest needs to be invested into repairs or ships. So upgrades to your ships, or repairs on your ships, or buying new ships. So you can't save too much money in between battles either. You just have to invest it into your fleet. And as I mentioned, some are our own make, some are a combination of the warlord scenarios or our own make, and then some are just pure warlord scenarios. We kept the limit for the campaign with famous ships to maximum of 1 allowed for each 1,000 points in the campaign pool or in your campaign fleet. And that's starting at the first 1,000 points. So you're not allowed any famous ships or captains up until you have a fleet of 1,000 points. After that, you're allowed 1 famous ship and 1 captain. At 2,000 points value, you're allowed 2 ships of renown and 2 famous ships and 2 famous captains. So that's the way we've run it. It worked out pretty well, kept it pretty balanced. If nothing else is said, of course you would roll for weather before each operation or each scenario. But most of the scenarios they would state if there's something special with the wind and so on. You will see it in the scenarios as we go through. You could end up with different point values, and if so, you'd use the rules from the Wargaming. So if it's less than 10% difference on the size of the fleets, no extra points are awarded. If it's between 10 and 50%, the smaller fleet would receive an additional 200 points at the end of the battle. If it's more than 500 points, if it's more than 50%, then it goes up to 400 points. This hasn't happened, so I mean, but it's in there. It's in the Warlord rules as well, I think. So I thought I just mention it. And before every battle, a player basically decides how much of his forces he wants to use. So you have an upper limit of the scenario, but you do not have to commit everything. So you can choose to commit less. Some scenarios has a minimum what you need to commit, but most of them no. So you can always choose to commit less to a scenario. And this could be for various reasons. Yeah. Defender. So if you lost the previous scenario, you're going to start deploying in the next one. So the defender always starts deploying. In the first scenario, you can roll for that. When you buy a ship, you select any upgrades. Remember, inexperienced or regular ships are allowed. If you choose upgrades for them, the larger and more permanent ones, like streamlined hull and sturdy, cannot be added later. So those cannot be added to the ship after the fact. That need to be added as you buy the ship. So that's an initial decision that you need to make. Is this going to be a sturdy ship, or is it going to be a streamlined hull? And the streamlined hull, if you're using our rules, like our house rules, then the streamlined hull is actually more valuable, because the streamlined hull actually give you an extra 1 rate of knots, not just an extra 1 on the final move there. So keep that in mind. So the French special is actually worth a bit more using our rules. Anyway, just thought I mentioned that as well. Other things you can buy to your ships later, like overgunned or more coronades and so on. Special crew members, like a master gunner, are not, or you're not allowed to buy them. They're gained in the campaign, and this is described in the rule book by Wargaming. So take a look there, how that works. We only allow it for veteran ships. So once a ship gains veterancy, then it can also later gain some special crew members to make it even better. You can sell an upgrade on a ship for half its original price in between battles. Could happen for various reasons. Also, the whole ship can be sold for half its value between battles. However, if you do this, it might not be completely good idea. We found like hanging on to ships is always good, especially if they have some experience, because if they have experience, they can later become more become a veteran ship. And this works. We've had in this campaign working like if a ship is active in a scenario, so engaging the enemy or fulfilling an objective, it gains 1 experience point. After it's gained 2 experience points, so surviving 2 scenarios, it has a chance of becoming a veteran ship if it's a regular, and that is done by a roll on a d6. If this fails, by its 3rd battle, the roll is raised to 5+ on a d6. After the 4th battle, it's 3+ on a d6, and after 5, no roll is needed anymore. It's automatically gaining veterancy. If the ship is inexperienced, it becomes a regular after 2 battles, and this doesn't depend if it's active or not. If it says participated in 2 battles, it's automatically upgraded to a regular ship. A ship that has struck its color in a scenario but survived the battle will lose 1 experience point. If it's a veteran, it will actually drop down to a regular ship with 3 experience points. A regular ship with just 1 experience point will become inexperienced with 1 experience point. So you can actually, by having a ship just strike repeatedly, lose its veterancy, and even it's being it regular, it can drop all the way down to inexperienced. It has happened a little bit in our campaign for sure. So keep this in mind. So this is an incentive to keep your ships safe as you play, being a little bit more careful with the ships, so you're not like over committing your ships, unless you have some kind of thing you want to do in that particular scenario. Damage carries over, so a ship damage would need to be repaired, or it's going to appear damaged next time you use it. A repair will cost 1 point, so 1 point of damage, 1 point from your campaign pool. A red dot on the campaign progress is 1,000 points, an orange 400 points, yellow 250 points. In addition, some scenarios will award additional points to the winner. Not all of them, but some of them. Here I have our quick reference sheets. I'm posting them in here again if you would like to use them. This is completely playable without them, of course, just using a holdfast and the original rules. But I mean, if you want to take a look at a little bit more advanced sailing, and I mean, the original sheet was done by Modeler Phil. I always mention this. Most of it, the stuff on there, is his ideas, I have to mention. As we added some of our own stuff, mostly the way the gunnery works. And I'm gonna just go through that again here, just to remember how it works. Basically, what we've done is making the crits a little bit harder at long range. And with lighter calibers. So for a heavy gun, the crit, if the distance is above 10 inches, is a roll of 1 on a d3. If it's below 10 inches but above 3 inches, it's a 1 to 3, so on a d6. So a roll of 1 to 3 on a d6. If it's below 3, the first roll, the initial roll of 1, is a crit automatically. Light guns will not crit above 10, and then below 10 down to 3 inches, it's a 1 on a d3. Below 3, they will also crit automatically. For coronades, it's from 8 inches down to 3 inches, 1 to 3 on a d6, and below 3 inches they also will crit automatically on the first initial roll as you roll the initial one. So you need an additional roll for longer ranges, basically, to make sure that it crits. So we found this makes the crit a lot less, and for us it's more fun. if you want to use it or not, you can just choose. And also on the sheet there's this extra level of sail and some other ways the things work. I added the sheets here, and also I added a link in this document where a video, kind of a long drawn video where I talk you through all these rule changes to the with our house rules basically. And there I also describe how you can download our ship lists from and use them with Battlescribe. That basically, I mean, all it does is adds more ship types. So there is different types of third rates. So you'd have, of course, the 64, the small one, but then you'll have the 74, but you also have an 80 gun third rate, and also you'll have a 120 gun first rate. So there's more divisions. You'll have a heavy frigate, like a fourth rate frigate. And then we've tweaked the resets a bit, and so that a 74 gun reset would be like the HMS Majestic, for instance. So a 56 gun reset then from a 74 gun third rate ship of the line. And then we'll have smaller resets, like the Indefatigable was reset from a 64 gun third rate. That's a slightly lighter ship. Of course they kept their large guns, and they had their heavier framing, so really effective ships. But we're kind of trying to we've tweaked the point costs a bit and so on for all this, and also the number of guns and so on. It's played out really well in all our battles, so if you want to have some different stuff, I recommend you give it a go. There's also an additional rule here on this page for taking over a ship, and that becomes a little bit important in a campaign, of course, because you could actually steal opponent's ships, right? And then you'll have them for the next scenario. Viable tactic in a campaign. So those are the sheets. As for the rules of the nations, we chose to remove the +1 gunnery for the British. We kept the admiralty and the tracking proficiency. What you want to do, you just choose yourself. But that's how we play the campaign without that. The French natural rules were as they is, but remember that the Streamline upgrade confers a higher bonus because it's a +1 rate of knots to the ship stat. So overall +1 rate of knots. So keep that in mind. So the French a little bit boosted, I guess. Spanish, I don't remember. Did we change something there? I think we added the overgunned to third rates as well, or I'm not sure if that was in the original. You're gonna have to look through yourself. I'm actually forgetting it at this point as I'm looking through. So here we have the actual theater of war. So this is the battle map, or whatever, the campaign map, so to say. So you'll follow this through. You see you have the British flag up at the top, and then you have the Franco-Spanish at the bottom. And that means if a battle is won by the British, then you're going to stay on that track. And if the battle is won by the Franco-Spanish, then you're going to stay on that track. Some battles are in the middle. That means that they will be played no matter what. Some scenarios are only played if one side wins. Some scenarios are played the same, but then whoever won the previous battle will have the weather gauge in that scenario. So there's an advantage of winning the previous scenario, where you'll have the weather gauge in the next scenario, even if this is the same one. I mean, you can swap this out as you like. I'm sure many of you can make better scenarios than us, but we wanted it this way, and it's also maybe like a plan of how you could run a campaign and how you can set up a campaign. And you can see here is the markers with the different dots where you'll gain points after the battles. So after you play the first battle, you gain 250 points. The second battle, you see, is still unrated, but you'll have those additional 250 points to spend, and you're also allowed a little bit larger fleet. On the third battle, you're allowed 6 rates, and so on, and those are different battles. So depending on how the second battle went, you're going to play one battle if the British won, and you're going to play another if the Franco-Spanish won. And you can see those white lines connecting them as you go through. You also see here between these battles in the middle here, there is no line connecting. So whatever happens in the crossing lane scenario, you're going to play the British troop landing. That's an unavoidable scenario, so to say. And the same with the fleet action on March the 3rd. So you just move through this, and depending on how a battle goes, you're going to move to the different scenarios, and then ending up with a fleet action on the 2nd of September. Of course, this fleet action, we haven't tried it yet, but basically at that point you're just going to throw in everything you had. So if you were good at saving your ships and being conservative, you probably have a better chance of winning that. And that could be the only scenario where you end up with a very uneven battle if one side has been very successful through the campaign, maybe. But still, you'd get a lot of points here at the end of the campaign, so you could probably replace those losses, and hopefully it will be somewhat similar. You can balance that at the end if you like. This is just a suggestion, so don't take it as hard fact. So here you have the first scenario. It's also called First Blood, May the 18th, and this is 1803, and that at sea and the Gulf of Lyon. And it's close to a larger island, and you'll also place some smaller rocks and islands around here, and you see what you're allowed to deploy. I'm not going to go through all these scenarios in detail, but they have sections. So there's the name of the scenario. It says how many turns you have. If the wind is decided, you'll see a wind rose with a red pointer in the direction where the wind is going. It's also mentioned the size of the battle area, and also if the wind is set point on the compass, it's also going to be mentioned here. You have the deployment, how many points, what type of ships, and so on, if there's anything special with that. You'll have a special section if there is something special about the scenario that you need to remember, and the victory conditions. And then you just find the corresponding scenario that you're going to play according to the campaign track there, and then you play it. You see, this is the Out of the Fog scenario from the rulebook, but then there's a little bit changes to the ship types allowed and so on. So some are going to be very similar, or you're going to recognize them from the books, and some are not in the books at all. So that's the way we set it together. It's because we find many of those scenarios in the books are very fun, so why not add them into a campaign where they fit. So different actions and different sizes of ships, and as I mentioned earlier, the size of the fleets will grow, sometimes quickly, sometimes a little bit slower, and it can also go back, and you're going to have less points in some scenarios, maybe smaller types of ships as well. So it's not going to all the time be larger and larger battles. It's going to be different types of battles, and you're also going to have a pool of ships to choose from. So as you gain experience, you're going to have veteran ships to choose from. Of course, a veteran ship is more expensive, and you have a set point value for your scenario, but you're going to have to spend that. It's going to be worth it to have a veteran ship, we've found, in these scenarios, even if they're more expensive. So that's the way this campaign works, more or less. It says how many turns and so on. Mostly it's played out nicely. If there's an error that has crept in, just let me know, and I'll try to correct it after the fact. So just going through this slowly, showing you the different scenarios, and as I said, some of them you might recognize, some of them you might not recognize. A lot of them, if you want to see them played out, you can just head on over to my channel, Linus Napoleonic Shipyard. I guess if you're hearing this video, you're already watching it. And then there is a lot of those. It will say that it's the Mediterranean campaign on those battle reports. So that those are battle reports from the Mediterranean campaign. And you can just have a check and how it plays out. And here at the end, I've added some extra scenarios from history. Yes, two of them. We have the Droits de l'Homme versus the HMS Indefatigable and HMS Amazon. So if you would like to try that out, I've posted this one earlier, but if you would like to try it out, it's here as well, if you haven't seen it before. We also have the action of Cartagena, 19th of December 1796, with the special rules for that and how that's going to work out. Quite fun special rules for that scenario. And that one we have play tested as well, so it was fun. So that's basically it for this campaign. And as I said, if anything is unclear, just ask. Base it off the campaign rules in the rulebooks from Wargames, the Black Seas rulebooks, and then just add on whatever campaign stuff we have on top, like, or what you prefer, basically your flavor there. But as it plays out with those points that you get after the battles, it's been playing out pretty even anyway. So even if one player loses a scenario, the campaign is not lost. You have chances to turn it around after the fact. So that's basically it, a short little introduction to the campaign, and I'm hoping that some of you are gonna try it, give it a try with your friends, and enjoy it as much as we have done. I guess we're going to be looking into some other campaigns eventually here as time allows, and maybe we'll add some other type of campaign rules. But these have been our initial campaign rules, and as I said, most of these scenarios are tested and the rules themselves are tested, and we at no point felt that the campaign was just decided ahead of time. There's always a balance in each scenario, and there's always a possibility to have most of your ships recouped, with new ones of course, but and you also have a feeling in this campaign where you really want to take care of your ships, so, and that's what we wanted to add. So we wanted you to feel like each ship is important. Yeah, so that's it for this time. The next one will most probably be, because we're going to play tomorrow morning, we're going to have a playthrough of that Second World War game, of Warlord Games, Victory at Sea. So finally, we're going to test that out. I'll probably do that as just a vlog, basically. I've never tried that before, but I'm going to do it, or maybe I did a little bit of it when I was on that exhibition. But I'm just going to see if the guys are up for it, and I'm going to let them comment on the battle as it plays. And also, on purpose, I haven't read the rules too much ahead of time, because I want us to, I want it to be a fresh experience. So we're experiencing the rules. I have videos up where I'm painting the ships, and also where I'm unboxing the box. So now we're going to play it. Of course, this is not Napoleonic era, this is Second World War, but we like that too, so we're going to give it a go and see if we think it's fun. And then, as I mentioned in the live stream, I am working on some bigger projects with the quarters, so more on that as we get closer. That's actually a lot of work, so spending time on that. There will be a video up eventually on the latest ships I'm making. That's the Acheron and the HMS Surprise from the movie. Of course, they weren't really in the books. So Master and Commander, and I'm making that for a friend, and I'm really enjoying it, going slowly, using a lot of photo edge parts and so on. There's some new photo edge from Atlantic models, actually the foot ropes, which I found really nifty, because building them yourself from really thin wire is horrendous. Some of you might like it, but for me that's where my limit is. I mean, I've done it, I've tried it, and now I'm going to use photo edge because it's much easier. And it looks better, to be honest, looks better, at least for me. Not as much glue. So that's basically it. I wish you fair winds, and I hope I see you for the next one.